Earlier, somebody asked, or we were asking about seeding rates and what somebody said they seeded at 3 bushels to the acre, and the question was, well, how many seeds per acre is that? And the answer was, it depends on the seeds per pound. Well, wheat will generally range between 10 and 15,000 seeds per pound. So 3 bushel times 60 bushels per pound is 180 pounds of seed. 180 times 10,000 seeds per pound is 1.8 million seeds per acre. If it's 15,000 seeds per pound, that's 2.7 million seeds per acre. So planting bushels per acre is not the recommended way. You need to calibrate your drill based on the seeds per pound, so you're applying seeds per acre. And so you got to know what that seeds per pound is. So I'm going to wrap up talking about harvest because harvest is right around the corner. If you have any final questions, feel free to holler at me along the way. So wheat is a food product. We mill it directly into flour and create food products from it. So we've got to produce high quality wheat for our mills. It's a wholesome product. We want to keep it clean because it is a food product. And a question came up this morning about desiccating wheat. And the label for glyphosate says it can be used to desiccate wheat. However, if you use glyphosate to desiccate wheat, it probably will not be accepted at any of the mills. So before you should choose to make any decision about doing that, you better check with where you're delivering your grain to find out if they will accept it or not. Okay, and I will almost guarantee you that if you've used glyphosate, the answer will be no. You will not have a market for your grain. So even though legally the label says you can do it, doesn't mean you should. Just keep that in mind. So do not desiccate. You're probably wheat generally dries down quick enough. You don't need to worry about desiccating it. Now, dry beans, that's another story. That's why we desiccate dry beans prior to harvest. So, quality. There are a number of things that can still go wrong before we get out of the field. Vomitoxin is a concern. Sprout. We talked a little bit about falling numbers. We want to get high test weight wheat out of there. And then dockage is another thing that can not only reduce your income, but it causes a problem for the mills because they have to, anything that is in your wheat that doesn't belong there, like little stones and insects and seeds of other plant species, they have to take all that stuff out of there before they can mill it. And if you've ever been through a mill and toured a mill, you'll see all the specialized equipment that they have to pull all that stuff out. It's remarkable what comes out of there. In fact, I was through one mill and they said they pulled a fully working and operating cell phone out of their supply of wheat before it went into their mill. So hammers, draw pins, all kinds of things come through there. Disease management, we're at the end now. We're beyond the need for or the ability to control some diseases. The only thing I might talk about here is, Marty, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I had a question about lodged wheat. Would there be any need to treat with a fungicide wheat that might be extra susceptible to any diseases at this point? Because most of it's reaching physiological maturity and senescence, so. Okay, yep. So that's what I thought, but I thought I'd verify. So you'd be off-label if you made any fungicide application at this point, because most of those fungicides have somewhere around a 25 to 35 day pre-harvest interval, and you're not going to want to make an application and then wait another 25 or 35 days for harvest. Okay, so this is some examples of some of the stuff that's been pulled out of here. Some years we get a lot of green kernels. This is wild oat seed, and that seed is actually kind of difficult to pull out of wheat. It's hard to separate. So make sure you're trying to keep your wheat clean all the way through to harvest. All vessels that handle grain, wagons, trucks, combines, augers, check what did you use them for last. Is there any remnants of what you used them for last in there that could cause a potential contamination? Things like dust, bird droppings, rodents, or old rotted grain. If those make their way into a truck and they get probed, you could have significant dockage or maybe even a rejection of a load. So ask yourself the questions: what did the truck haul last? What if the last thing through the auger? Did you run fertilizer? Did you haul treated seed? Any of those things. Just make sure that everything you use for wheat harvest, you've looked at it. There's not stuff caked up or hanging up in the wagon or in the bin of the truck, and augers or anything. The combine, make sure that's cleaned all out and whatnot. A lot of you do some testing on farm of different products. I would encourage you to make sure you've calibrated your yield monitor. You should do that once per year per crop, because that way, if you're going to use these decisions or use this data to make decisions on your farm, you better get good yield data. And I've seen examples where a guy said, "Oh, I am definitely calibrated. I'm within 2% of what my scale tickets said for the entire field. My monitors, I was within 2%, but they were overestimating the high yield areas and they were underestimating the low yield areas. So by as much as 17%. So that's considerable. So make sure you calibrate. There's a number of different things to calibrate. It's getting actually easier, some of the technology in these displays. It's making it easier and easier to calibrate your monitor. So follow the directions. Every make and model is different. Even the year of the make is different. Some of the older systems use a different technology. You got to weigh and find points on a curve. Some of them now are a little more advanced and you don't have to do as much. So in terms of combine adjustments, be methodical in the way that you make your adjustments. Try to know why you're making an adjustment before you do it, and then double check after you've made an adjustment, whether it's fan speed or rotor speed or whatever it is, changing sieves. Make sure you're getting the result, the desired result afterwards. Don't finish combining the field and then realize, oh, I just spread a whole bunch of seed on the ground. Operating the combine, it's at its full capacity. Most rotor combines do a better job of threshing and cleaning when that rotor is running at full capacity. So try to operate based on the row width of your head and ground speed to keep that rotor full. There should be an indicator on the display what your percent capacity is, and you don't want to peg it over 100. But you want to keep it in that 90 to 100 if possible. Check the operation frequently, especially when crop conditions change. You go to a different field that was planted later or a different variety. Double check everything. Go behind the combine, make sure the stems are fully threshed out. Pull the chaff aside and make sure you're not blowing seed on the ground, and so on. So reel speed should be run 10 to 25% faster than your ground speed, and then adjust your ground speed to maximize the machine capacity. Adjust your cleaning fan speed so you're getting a good clean sample that goes to the dockage when you deliver it to the mill or the elevator. Adjust your sieves, your concave settings, rotor speeds, and so on. And then one thing that's really important is chopping and managing the residue behind the combine. We're putting bigger and bigger heads on these combines, and we're not always paying attention to spreading the chaff the full width of the combine. If you're baling straw, you're windrowing it, that's fine. But for those that are spreading it, chopping and spreading it, make sure you're spreading that chaff the full width. And that's especially important when we're planting wheat, especially after soybeans, because if you get strips, say you've got a 35-foot head, and you can only spread it 20 feet wide, you've got 20-foot strips of thick residue, then no residue, then thick residue, then no residue. Trying to get a planter adjusted so that you're planting uniform depth in those conditions is terrible. So make sure you're spreading your chaff properly and the full width of the combine head. So have a safe harvest. It can be warm out and hot. Sometimes we hurry a little bit. When things are busy, we're trying to beat the rain and get the crop in. Do not cut corners. Always have an eye for safety. Look out for potential hazards. Teach your employees the same thing, and especially your kids. Okay? The last thing we want is a farm accident that can make a season go terribly bad. And all it takes is a split second for that to happen, and it can change your life forever. So be safe at harvest. Does anybody have any final questions? Is there anything I've missed? Any of the presenters? Anybody have anything to cover? All right. Well, sorry we couldn't go to the field today. We got a little too much rain, but make sure you've signed up for your RUP credits. And with that, I guess have a great day and let us know if you have any questions.